Hey everybody, Sean and Allison here from Spoken Garden.
Hi you guys, happy Sunday, and this is day 111 of the Quarantine Gardeners.
If you don't know, that's us, and this is our daily video log of us accomplishing projects around our garden while under quarantine.
And we're really happy you're here today. Thank you for joining us, and for those of you that have been with us for a while, thank you so much. We really appreciate you watching our videos. For the rest of you, go ahead and please subscribe down below so you don't miss out.
So guys, today is the first day of Garden Science Sunday. And this is a new part of the series that we wanted to introduce on Sundays to help you guys out in your garden and to do a little science experimentation.
Yeah, we thought this would be fun, not only for us, but for you. Maybe you want to follow along. So we're going to give you a list of the tools you'll need and everything, all the supplies needed in order to do the same experiment along with us if you want.
Yeah. Think of this as your garden lab.
Yeah, you know, both Sean and I have a science background. We're kind of nerdy that way. And we just thought we'd love to present this to you. Some of the Sundays we'll be experimenting in our garden. Sometimes we'll take cuttings. We have a ton of ideas.
So today, your first Garden Science Sunday, we are going to take cuttings of our salvia plant, our hot lips salvia.
It's one of our favorite plants in our yard. It's super hummingbird friendly, and we would love to grow more and spread them around our yard.
So guys, we're at our pallet table out in our yard. And here are a couple of things you're going to need. First, you're going to need some containers to put your cuttings into, and we just have regular garden soil, potting soil here, that these are all filled with. So we have 4 round ones and we have 4 square ones, and you'll get to hear what the significance between the two is a little bit later on. Then we've got water. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the lavender cuttings, and we're going to try and start some in the soil and in some water. So we've got that jar of water already prepped. Then we've got some rooting hormone. So we're going to use the rooting hormone to dip the cuttings into to then place them in the soil. And lastly, you're going to need some pruning shears, which we have our favorite Corona classic cut pruning shears right here.
Yeah, and we'll get to the taking the cuttings part in a minute, but we wanted to talk a little more about this lab. In order to really set this up, like Sean said, we have the same soil in every container, so that's a controlled variable. And sorry, that's kind of nerdy, but you really want to be able to measure the results accurately at the end. And our time length for this lab is that we're going to check all our cuttings in 3 weeks. We're going to conclude the experiment in week 4. So by week 4, we want to see which cuttings will root the fastest.
Our main objective is to get these cuttings to actually root. And then secondly, if they root, how long are those roots? And we'll go by generally, are they 1 inch, 2 inch? We'll be subjective with it. We're not going to get a ruler out and actually measure them. We're just going to see what they have.
And so to add on to that, so like Sean said, we have circular pots and we have square pots. Another thing that we're controlling in this experiment is that we're keeping all the pots the same size. They're roughly 4 inches. We're going to take an equal number of cuttings. We're going to see if we can root them using 3 different mediums. First, we're going to use potting soil, and we're going to dip these in rooting hormone.
So the cuttings that are placed in the circular pots will have the rooting hormone applied to them.
We're going to keep these kind of basic. We're going to take the cuttings and put them right in the soil. We're not going to use rooting hormone on these. Third set that we're going to test are just simply in water, no rooting hormone, just water.
It'll be really interesting to see which one of them root, if any of them root better than others.
Right, so Sean, what's your hypothesis?
I predict that the cuttings that have the rooting hormone applied to them will root the best, followed by the water medium, and then lastly, maybe some, if any at all, will root in the square pots. What about you? What do you predict?
Yeah, it's pretty close to that, but I actually think that cuttings that we put in water will root the best.
Oh.
I almost want to be optimistic here and say at least 3 out of 4
Cool.
will root, so I could refine my prediction a little bit, followed by the rooting hormone, and lastly the soil.
Okay. Great. So with that, let's go over to the plant and take our cuttings.
Okay, you guys, here's our beautiful hot lips Salvia microphylla, if you remember this from an earlier video. And we are going to get started on our cuttings, but we have a couple more things to share with you. So in order to be really fair and to have an accurate experiment, we're going to have the same person taking the cuttings the whole time.
That's me.
That's Sean. And we're also going to take cuttings that are all exactly the same length.
To even further develop this, to make sure that we get really good results. We've got all this tissue out here, but we want to make sure that we take the same type of tissue. That way it takes out any guessing or any variables that we might not have thought about for this experiment, so we get the best results we can. We're going to take cuttings of the same developmental stage of tissue. And what I mean by that is we've got this growth right here, and this is pretty big. So what we want to do is take this cutting, but you can see it's developing flower buds right at the tip top. We're going to take this cutting, pinch those off, so it'll trick this tissue to think it's not supposed to reproduce, but it's supposed to produce shoots. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take all our cuttings of this developmental stage of tissue.
And it's sad to pinch those flowers off when they're about to bloom, but sacrifices need to be made.
We need to experiment in our garden.
We told you guys we're super nerdy, so it's kind of coming out. So Sean, how long would you say those are?
These are probably 4 to 5 inches long each. And that's what we're going to try and keep them as we go through and take these cuttings. It's a little tricky because some of these are a little bit more developed than others.
And we need how many total?
We need 12 cuttings total.
4 for the soil with the rooting hormone, 4 for the soil without rooting hormone, and 4 for the water.
Yep, so I got 4 there.
So we're going to keep going until we have all our cuttings.
So guys, here's our cuttings, and you can see they're pretty close in length. So now we need to strip off some of the base leaves and then definitely pinch off these top buds that are developing, so we have the most perfect cuttings we can for this experiment. So firstly, what you want to do is you want to strip off, just pinch off these leaves and their stems. So we're going to go 2 nodes so we can get those 2 places to hopefully root. And then here's our buds. We're going to pinch this right there. We're going to get those flower buds off there. Now we just have these leaves here, and that's what the plant's going to use to photosynthesize, to produce and help produce those roots down below. So on to the next one. I'm going to pinch that off first, and then I'm going to just take these off. Just keep going with each. Just take those off. And we'll do these 2.
Okay, so we have all our cuttings ready to go. As you can see, they've been stripped of all their leaves and the flowers have been pinched off the top. So each cutting is the same length and has this basic look at the top. So now Sean's preparing all the planting holes. He's sticking his finger about 2 inches in to make a hole for each cutting.
So here we go, guys. We're gonna do this as fast as we can because these cuttings are losing moisture because they've been taken away and detached from the plant. So they're still photosynthesizing and sucking up moisture. So the sooner and the faster we do this, the better off and the better our results will be for rooting. Here goes our first treated cutting into the rooting hormone. Okay.
So water, then hormone, and then plant right away.
Yep. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that we get at least 1, maybe 2. This one's not going to have it, but one of the nodes got treated with the rooting hormone, so it can then stimulate at that node where those leaves were the new roots to develop. And if you watch some of our other videos, especially on the rosemary, you'll know that we did the same thing when we rooted the rosemary. We made sure that the rooting hormone got on to those nodes. So that's it.
That's it
for those guys. So our experiment has begun. So guys, just to summarize, we have 2 treatments with potting soil. The first treatment with cuttings that were treated with the rooting hormone in the regular potting soil. Then we have the cuttings that were not treated with the rooting hormone in the potting soil. And then lastly, we have cuttings just in regular water. And we're gonna see how they do in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We'll give you an update.
So last step, you guys, is watering these in carefully because they're very tender. But you make sure that you get these watered in. You're gonna wanna let your cuttings completely dry out, let the soil dry out between waterings so you don't overwater these.
Yep, these plants do not like wet feet or wet roots, continuously wet roots, so they need to be let to dry out between their waterings. So, word of the wise.
So what do you guys think will happen? Comment below and let us know your prediction so you can play along with us. And like Sean said, we'll check these in 3 weeks and make our conclusion in 4 weeks.
So until then, leave us your comments and questions down below. We love hearing from you guys. Give us that thumbs up. Let us know if we're doing a good job.
And that's a wrap for our first Garden Science Sunday. We hope you enjoyed that, and we're looking forward to bringing these to you every Sunday. So stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We'll have another new project coming your way, and thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.